So I was watching the latest Apologia video, which I pretty much watch faithfully, and he had put together this compilation, like only Apologia can do, of responses by apologists to a video interview or discussion between Alex O'Connor and this guy named Rhett. And apparently he's like all that. He doesn't need a last name. He's just Rhett. I haven't really heard of him, but I mean, I have heard the name around, and he's got this long hair like Jesus guy. And so he's like apparently one of the like deconstruction leaders, first deconstructed, and now an atheist, I believe. And I just want to, by the way, note that I got caught up in this deconstruction thing in a weird way, like kind of like this. Like when I was 18, this is a completely random story I just thought of. When I was 18, I went to be a camp counselor at a Christian camp, and I decided, like I was right out of high school, and I decided it was time for something different. So I had my mom just shave my hair off to like within a quarter inch. I was like all shaved off. So I figured I'd meet all these new people and nobody would know that I had long hair. Like I actually had pretty long hair in high school. And so I showed up at this camp, and like half the guy counselors also had their heads shaved. And it turned out that they had all gone together on a whim, and like days before camp started, because they were buddies from the previous camps. So they're all returning, and they had gone and got their heads shaved. And so everybody thought that I was like one of the returning counselors, and that I was like sort of buddies with that group, even though I had no idea who they were. And I was a new guy. Okay, so that is a story that illustrates my relationship to the whole deconstruction thing, because I started to seriously question my faith around 2017, and it had nothing to do with even knowing what the term deconstruction meant. I had no idea, and it was all purely based on my own personal chronology, my own personal journey, without input from any other person that had left Christianity. Not like zero. No atheists. I wasn't watching atheist tube. I wasn't even watching YouTube at the time. I didn't even use YouTube. It was all just my own thinking. That was it. Like I went to church. This is how it started. I would go to church and I would come back irritated. And it would take me all afternoon to get over my irritation and kind of sense of unease, discouragement. And so eventually I started writing about it. So I'd come home from church and I'd start writing. And it started out, like, titled the document, Confessions of a Postmodern Christian. Well, how accurate that was. Yeah, it kind of is. But yeah, so I had nothing to do with that whole movement. It was all just me processing all the information that I had learned over, 12 years of college. Was it 12 years? No, 8 years. 8 years of college, and, ministry, and a lot of studying on my own to the academic level. And I had gotten divorced a couple of years before that, and I wasn't in ministry. And, it was like the first time in my life that no Christian group and no Christian people living near me had any real expectations of that I should be in church on Sunday morning. And that just gave me a lot of freedom. And eventually, there was this church that I was going to that it had this fairly large auditorium, and in the back there were some seats in the back, like there was kind of an aisle, and then just a few seats against the wall, and I used to sit there, kind of symbolic. And then there was a side door that went out from there. And one day I just got so irritated with the sermon. I think it was the music pastor. He was a pretty cool guy, a pretty smart guy, but he was like berating us for not praying enough and stuff like this. And I was just like, I always thought prayer was kind of weird anyway. And I was just like, dude, I didn't come here to be told that I didn't pray enough. I mean, fuck you, like, why is that what happens at church? Like, I come to church, I participate in this community, with my time and my money, and then what do I get in return? Some asshole, again, he's not really an asshole, but, just allow me the rhetoric, some asshole telling me that I didn't pray enough. And it was true, I didn't pray enough, but I had good reasons. Like, it's not like I hadn't thought about it. I didn't do prayer. It didn't make any sense to me. And I suppose that's kind of signs of trouble if you're a Christian and you don't do prayer, So anyway, at that point, I got up right in the middle of the sermon and I just walked out that side door. And that was it. I didn't go back. Right in the middle, boom, I was done. And then it was funny because I was always trying, my son was living with me at the time, in high schooler, and I was always trying to coax him to go to church, and he was kind of like, I don't really want to go, I wasn't interested, didn't like the youth group. The only part of church he enjoyed seemed to be the actual sermonizing the sermon, because sometimes it was like, somewhat interesting and intellectual, because it was a church that was known as a teaching church, so they were kind of a little bit more sort of on the ball when it came to like interpreting the Bible and things like that. Even though in retrospect it's like a distinction without difference, compared to like other churches. They're all essentially the same. Even though some claim to be more, based on the Bible than others. So then that was my sort of my own coming out to myself as, I'm not buying this anymore. But it took another couple of years probably for me to start actually telling other people, and yet another 2 years to tell my family. And so I had these awkward family, times where I would go visit my family, and, they're very Christian, and they are always talking about the Lord and everything. And I was like sitting in the corner hoping that would be ignored that I wasn't participating. And of course that was noticed. But anyway, I just want to say, like, I never, I didn't get caught up in any kind of deconstruction moment. It just happened to be, like, literally, I had no contact with anybody. No atheists, no people who were questioning their faith, no nothing. It was just all me. And, listening to some random lectures on the radio or also audiobooks. Really got into Steven Pinker at that time, though, he's an atheist, but he doesn't teach atheism per se, he just is one. But I liked the things that he was saying, and I, in my own mind, I was like, okay, I connect that, with a new way of looking at things. And I did read a book on Jerry Coyne, Why Evolution is True, which was a great book. Not an endorsement of Jerry Coyne, but it was a good book. And so I just wanted to kind of sort of put myself on the map there, because it's just, I find it irritating, and this is a typical thing with Christians. Like, they're always or apologists anyway, or seems like it is a common theme. I mean, I hate to like paint everybody with a broad brush, but it is a common theme that whenever there's a movement of any kind, then they immediately become dismissive of people who participate in that movement, and it's always like a trend, and so your hard-fought emotional journey is just dismissed as a trend, like with trans. That's another one. But also, like, I've so much heard people being dismissive. Oh yeah, yet another deconversion, yet another whatever. Like, I wasn't part of that. It was just completely, I'm not saying without input, but definitely without input from, the sort of any kind of movement or other people who were doing the same thing as me. In fact, I felt like I was completely alone.